have to go out in the middle of a pandemic. Better gear up. Alright, let's do this. Thank God. Alright. I should take care of business for a while. Let's... Oh no.
So, 2020, huh? It's definitely shaping up to be an interesting year.
Yeah, this whole pandemic has definitely thrown 2020 for a loop. A lot of the things that we were excited for and looking forward to are now pushed back indefinitely. A lot of games, a lot of movies, a lot of big events that we normally look forward to, gone. Ah, man. There ain't much that we can do about it other than hope for the best and push on through this together and, well, stay inside. And I hope nobody's going too stir-crazy being locked indoors. Hopefully it gives you time to go through some of your projects and maybe your backlogs on gaming, but man, every day it's just something new about this pandemic. And I think I'm at the point where I want to go into a different pandemic. I want to try something a little more interesting, so to say. So why not try a little bit of a biohazard instead, so to speak. I've been looking forward to this one for a while. Let's see how she's shaped up. Now, for me, my experience with Resident Evil has gone back to Resident Evil 4 as my beginning, and then I kind of slowly began branching out through the series. But what I have to say the pinnacle was, for me, was Resident Evil 2 Remake. If you haven't played that game, go do it, go get it now, no questions asked. That was one of the best games from 2019, and if you're gonna remake a game, that just set the milestone for it. I loved it. It got me so immersed, so engaged. It was one of the few games in a long time that actually made me feel like a sense of dread and panic. Absolute urgency and fear for what was around the corner. And I hope Resident Evil 3 can live up to it. I already know it has the reputation of being a lot shorter than Resident Evil 2, and honestly my biggest hope is that Nemesis is a lot more terrifying than Mr. X. I'm very curious to see how this plays out. I've waited a while for this. This is gonna be my first actual experience with Resident Evil 3. Let's see how this went. So here in Resident Evil 3, it's just like it was in Resident Evil 2 with the fact that we're over the shoulder again, we're plunged right into the heart of Raccoon City. Except this time, they don't hesitate as you're literally thrown right into the action with Nemesis just bursting through the wall and making his message very clear about how he wants to utterly destroy you and everything you love, basically. He is horrifying, and he is going to absolutely kickstart this campaign off. As you're put into the shoes of Jill Valentine, and you're facing the events that precede Resident Evil 2, and some that cross over into Resident Evil 2's timeline, you're going to be facing some major odds as you're watching Raccoon City fall to the infection, and you desperately want to make your way out. And all the while in this grand plan, your grand escape, and just desperate hope for survival, you have Nemesis hot on your heels. Thankfully, you won't have to exactly face this alone. Through some help with an Umbrella team sent into the city, they'll be trying to help clear out the situation, and this is where you encounter Carlos, a friendly face who's going to be kind of like your wingman through the game. You'll have certain sections where you meet with him and talk to him, and then other sections where you actually get to take control of him. There aren't really any sections where you're going to be running together and fighting together. It's just bit by bit, person to person, basically. With the gameplay in this game, it's pretty much going to function almost exactly the same as it did in Resident Evil 2, but there are some key differences from this game and that game. For starters, let me point out that, you know how in Resident Evil 2 you could actually counter the zombies? Like if you had a knife or a flashbang or frag, you could take a chance to stab it into them or shove it in their mouth and back away and save yourself a bite, basically. In this game, you don't have that. They took it away, and while you do have a knife still, it's basically just an indestructible backup weapon. Whenever a zombie's down, you know, just run up to them and swipe them a few times, and hopefully that finishes them off before they stand back up. I think what their way of making up for that is, instead of having that counter, you have the ability to do like a quick dodge. If you tap the button just right, you'll actually roll out of the way of a incoming hit or an incoming zombie staggering at you. If you're Jill, it'll be a dodge roll. If you're Carlos, it'll be this sweet right hook that he just throws into the zombies and knocks them right off their feet. Other than that, that basically makes up most of the changes to this game. It's pretty much the same formula that you had in Resident Evil 2. The combat's still really satisfying, and you're going to be having pretty much the same arsenal from both Leon and Claire just put into Jill now. And you're certainly going to need that arsenal with all the zombies that are around in this game and Nemesis constantly being hot on your heels. The enemies this time around, it's still staggering zombies that they still bob their head around a whole lot, so take your shots carefully. Really the only new additions enemy-wise is a couple weird creatures in the sewers, hunters, which, may I say, screw those hunters, they are actually pretty annoying to face. And these bizarre zombies that Nemesis makes where he puts like weird tentacle monster on its head. Other than that, you're not really going to be seeing anything too drastically different. That pretty much makes up most of the enemies within this game. But the thing is, with the fact that the city's falling and all that, there's a lot more zombies roaming around, and they will be respawning. So you're going to be taking on a lot more combat situations, or if you want to, having to escape more. And with that, hand in hand, goes the fact that there's a lot more items this time around. In Resident Evil 2, I was pretty stocked up the whole way through, and this one, I had such an abundance of items on me at all times. I was constantly running back to the, item box to dump everything and then go retrieve what was left on the map. Oh, sweet! That's gonna come in handy later. More ammo. Alright. Oh shit. 2 guns. Alright. Takes up a bit of inventory, but I can work with that. Okay. Well, you know, another green herb. Okay. Starting to get a little full here. It's like the 8th one now? Whatever. Oh! That makes like 90 or 100 rounds now. Alright. Okay. Well, what more can I get? Wait. What do I even need this for? I don't think I have enough. I need to get to an item box. Oh God, it's in my mouth! Not that I'm complaining about that, I was just kind of surprised at the sheer abundance of items that I had. Maybe that was partly due to how conservative I am with my resources. Every time I fight a zombie, it's always usually 3 to 4 shots to the head, and then I knife them to death while they're on the ground. Whenever I see Nemesis, I keep my frag grenades specifically saved just for him, to drop them and run. But yeah, I never really felt that sense of urgency when it came to the ammo and how stocked up I was. I had like 12 or 13 green herbs just sitting in my inventory box, and I usually had somewhere between 90 to 120 pistol rounds on me at all times, and around 20 shotgun shells always. I usually just left the grenade launcher full enough for one full clip, basically. So maybe you won't have to actually feel like you're so stingy on bullets, or maybe that was just me. Even regardless of just how many bullets a zombie can soak up in this game. It made me laugh at the fact that when my friends were watching me, they always would comment, "Jesus, what are these zombies made out of? Are they made out of adamantium? What is with these vibranium skulls that they have?" I always got a kick out of just the weird reactions they give to seeing these zombies just taking such a beating. I'm so sick of freaking zombies. Alright. Eat this! But yeah, even taking that into consideration, I still just had such a surprising abundance of stuff. Maybe I was saving a little too much, but in the end I was surprised at just how much time I was winding up spending running back to this area, grab the items. Oh, do I need to go back to the item box? Alright, I'll go ahead and do it. I think it's worth it. Now, taking all that into consideration, what about the big focus of the game? One of the big highlights, which is Nemesis. How is Nemesis in this game? Was he a big improvement over Mr. X? Well, to answer that bluntly, yes and no. Yes being, when Nemesis is introduced and he comes in during the first couple hours of the game, he comes in hard, and it is really cool getting to face him and have him just drop right in on you. Every encounter with him it feels shocking, exhilarating, and intense. Just how he'll react and respond to you, and somehow, sometimes it seems like he just straight up teleports around.
I'm going to rape you! Get the fuck down from there!
Straight up teleports around or drops in like a Kool-Aid man. But after the first couple of hours, when you're running around Raccoon City and you more or less beat him in a couple of the boss fights, he kind of loses his charm. After your first real boss fight for him and after he goes through his first transformation, that's pretty much it with Nemesis. From there on, you're pretty much limited to only encountering him in these boss fights that are more or less like you just running in circles around each other, and they aren't really difficult fights at all. They're very easy, to be brutally honest, or at least that's what it felt like. That might be my biggest problem with the game, aside from its length, is just the fact that Nemesis just kind of tapers off there after the first couple of hours, a fairly short game. I really wish they did more with him. I wish he was a more persistent threat and was more hot on your heels like he was initially, whereas it just steadily tapers off as the game goes along, and to the point where he feels more like a joke by the end. Ultimately, he did feel like a little bit of a letdown, if I'm going to be completely honest. And that's a shame considering just how big of and important of a character he seemed to be, especially based on the original. So just bear in mind, after the first couple of hours, that's more or less it with him chasing you around, basically. And if you want to hear the iconic STARS quote, well, I think he only said it at one point in the game and that was it. Now then, what about the other aspects of the game? What about the graphics? Well, I will say without a doubt that once again, this Resident Evil engine is absolutely breathtaking, and the amount of detail and quality that you see around you in all of the environments, so amazingly detailed, down to the very T. It's incredible just looking around and absorbing what's in your surroundings. Just everything from the lighting and how it reflects off everything, the fires and the textures, to every little object, every little prop around you in the scenery. Even the zombie models, even Jill's model. There's so much to notice if you just stop and take a closer look at everything. To me, it's mind-blowing, and it makes me excited to see what can come out of the next Resident Evil and the next generation. We'll see what happens in Resident Evil 8, or a 4 remake, or Veronica remake, just whatever they roll with. I'm very much looking forward to it. I might actually say that I hope to see a little more location variety, because just like in Resident Evil 2, you're going through basically some reoccurring parts of Raccoon City, as well of course some new ones, but also the police station, sewers again, and a lab. It kind of feels mandatory for Resident Evil games to kind of hit these key locations, it seems like, and they didn't falter here. At least it was very appealing to the eye, and what all you get to see around you. That certainly helps give it some credit. And let me also hit on the sound design and music in this game. As far as I can tell, I think some of the music is remade and remastered versions of the original music from Resident Evil 3. I think there's the Nemesis theme is remade, as well as some of the save room themes, and a couple other little songs. And then there's a lot of new ones, and all of them, they do an excellent job at making the tension feel really high. It's like music that would make your heart feel like it's starting to pound and pump really fast. It fits these intense battles and situations and your encounters. All of them really do an excellent job at setting up that atmosphere. And all of the creatures and the zombies that you encounter do sound really eerie and fit the mood really well. Whenever you hear a groan behind you, it's always really unsettling to see a zombie stumbling towards you, or a hunter just quickly making its way and up to you. All of it comes together really well and in a wonderful way, and I can definitely appreciate and respect the quality that went into it. Just like with Resident Evil 2, it is excellent there, and I'd say it was excellent here too. I don't think you'll be let down in that department, and for some of you it may be some nostalgia that comes with it that puts a smile on your face. And let me touch on this before we wrap up. Just like what I said earlier, this game is indeed short, and it's one of its biggest red flags, I think. I didn't spend too long getting through the game, and looking at how long my recording was, I'm also surprised over that. As far as I know, Resident Evil 3 was already a short game, and it sounds like here it is even shorter, and significant parts of the game were ultimately cut out from the original, including the multiple paths that were in the PlayStation 1 game. It definitely felt like it could have been longer and there was more potential. Maybe they were just trying to rush and get this game out by the end of the year or something. Who knows? It's hard to say. And if you were hoping for a 6, 7, 8 hour experience or as long as Resident Evil 2, simply put, you're not gonna get it here. And I think there's even less replayability in this game compared to Resident Evil 2, where you had, a Claire playthrough and Leon playthrough, side A and side B. It's just one playthrough here, nothing extra about it. I probably won't go through this game again for a while, and as far as I know, I think you could get a bonus weapon like a minigun or a rocket launcher in this one too, but I don't really think I'm going to bother coming back to the game for some time. Maybe I'll go back and play the original, but that's about it. If you're a die-hard Resident Evil fan, you'll probably get the game now as is, and as to whether or not you'll feel satisfied for it or justified for a $60 or $50 purchase, that's debatable. For some of you, I might recommend renting the game first, because you could honestly beat it in one day or a weekend, or maybe waiting until it's about $20 or $30. It's up to you, and for me, I got enough enjoyment out of it as is, but I still feel like I was expecting and hoping for more ultimately.
Alright. Now, to wrap up what I think about this game, I don't think I was expecting it to top Resident Evil 2. I was hoping for a good product, and I think overall, I felt like I got a good experience out of Resident Evil 3. But this is one of those weird cases where my enjoyment with it went up real high, and then it just kind of slowly dropped through the game. Man, I definitely got some kicks out of it. That's for sure. I loved going through Raccoon City. Jill was pretty interesting. Carlos was fun to play as too, but it feels like this went more down the path that like Resident Evil 5 and 6 did, where it's starting to veer off more into the action side of the genre. It's hard to say, really. And the length I got out of it, I think it was about 5.5 hours for me, if I remember right. Somewhere from 5.5 to 6. Yeah, think that over. You might want to wait for the game to drop in price first. I will say, if you enjoyed Resident Evil 2, go ahead and try it. It's still the same engine. The game looks gorgeous. The sound is amazing. The visuals, the designs, all of it is amazing. I was itching for more, though. By the time I was done, I was left itching for more. I wanted to roam around Raccoon City more. I wanted to explore more areas. I even heard that the original Resident Evil had like branching paths. I kind of wish that was here. I would have liked having more options, more variety. Sure, getting to swap to Carlos sometimes was kind of cool, but it felt like there could have been more. Considering how fast this game came out, I guess I'm not really surprised. We all knew they were probably going to jump to Resident Evil 3 from here, and now they're saying that instead of Code Veronica, which I never got to experience that, I would have liked to play it, instead they're going straight for Resident Evil 4. I have a little bit of concern for these remakes now. That's not to say this was a bad game, but I feel some concern for the future. I want to be optimistic, but I don't want to get my expectations too high and just wiped out. All in all, give it a shot. Maybe rent it first. You could honestly probably beat this in 2 days, a weekend. That about sums up the thoughts and feelings of Resident Evil 3. It was a fun time, but there's more on the horizon. And with that, we'll see where we can go from here. Given how messed up our schedules have become and everything, we're gonna have to improvise a bit. I got some things in store. There's some fun to be had here pretty soon. And you'll be seeing it. With that, take care, everyone. Stay safe, stay clean, and watch out for each other. Until next time, later.